Amidst a grassy field under a gray sky, Incrid and Andrew stand opposite each other, swords drawn. Andrew takes a ready stance in the foreground as Incrid stands firm. With a determined look, Incrid formally accepts the challenge. "I accept your duel," he states, his eyes fixed on his opponent. He adjusts his grip on his sword, holding it low and prepared. "I will face you with all my heart." A confident smirk plays on Andrew's lips as he looks down at Incrid. His own blade is held high and gleaming as a sword cuts through the air with a swift whoosh. Incrid's voice echoes. "Doesn't it remind you of that?" Their blades then meet in a shower of sparks. The force of the impact locks them in a fierce struggle. Incrid recalls the words he spoke on that day. "Try taking command from me. If you can beat me with skill." Andrew grimaces, annoyed by the memory. "Ha, you're bringing up embarrassing memories," he says, but quickly dismisses it. But that's all in the past. With a powerful surge, Incrid lunges forward, his sword cutting through the air in a blur of motion. Andrew leans back, the blade narrowly missing his face as he calmly. Enkidu states, "We're different now." A confident smirk appears on his face. Andrew, fueled by determination, roars back, of course, and unleashes another ferocious swing. Watching from the sidelines, Rum cups his hands around his mouth and yells, "Don't go easy on him, Captain." Rum continues to shout from the side. Even a failed squad leader deserves credit for grit. In the midst of the duel, their swords clash and scrape against each other. Enkidu observes his opponent's movements and thinks to himself, Andrew's youthful arrogance has vanished, replaced by caution and experience. Andrew grits his teeth, his eyes glowing with a faint blue light as he channels his strength into a powerful downward slash. Enkidu raises his sword to block the impact, the ringing sound reverberating through the air. As their blades remain locked, he looks up at Andrew's determined face. "You've really changed a lot," he thinks, a hint of a smile on his lips. Andrew continues his fluid assault, sweeping his sword low across the ground. Enkidu parries another of Andrew's swift attacks, his mind reflecting on their history. "Our relationship from when we first met," he thinks to himself, "and our skills too." Their blades met again in a rapid and furious exchange, sparks flying as steel ground against steel. Suddenly, Andrew let out a strained grunt. His eyes widened in disbelief as he found himself being overpowered, his sword slowly but surely being pushed back by Incrid's relentless pressure. With a single, powerful shove, Incrid broke through Andrew's guard. The overwhelming force sent Andrew stumbling backward, his sword flying from his grasp. The weapon spun through the air as Andrew, panting and disarmed, lost his balance completely. He fell backward, his open hand reaching out for nothing, and landed hard on the ground. Incrid stood over him, his own sword still held firmly. The duel was decided in an instant. Andrew sat on the ground, having retrieved his sword. Incrid extended a hand, which Andrew clasped firmly as he was pulled to his feet. With a serious expression, Andrew announced his intentions. "I'm going to leave," he said. "It's time to rebuild my household." He then offered a genuine invitation to Incrid. "If you ever come to the capital, Captain, you can stay at the Gardner mansion." Incrid considered this for a moment before remembering a key detail. Of course, since you received the royal dagger," he said, a slight smile forming as he looked at Andrew. "You could stay at the royal castle instead." Incrid playfully grabbed a handful of Andrew's hair, ruffling it roughly. Andrew let out a surprised yelp. "Eek." Letting go, Incrid looked at him warmly and said, "I'll look forward to it." A warm, gentle smile appeared on Incrid's face as he looked at Andrew. Touched by the gesture, Andrew's face broke into a wide, flushing grin. He responded enthusiastically, "Yes." Nearby, Redna walked up behind Mac, starting to ask, "Hey, are you going to go with Andrew, too?" Mac suddenly shoved him away, muttering, "Oh, gross." Streams of tears flowed down Mac's face as he looked on, overwhelmed with emotion. "Andrew, sire, since when did you become so admirable?" he exclaimed. The large, shirtless Odin placed a comforting hand on Mac's head. "Come on, wipe those tears," he said gently. The moment was broken as the group descended into a chaotic pile with Rum getting involved. Rum yells angrily, You got a death wish or what?" Hearing the commotion, Andrew whips around and shouts, "Rum, stop bullying Mac." Rum retorts at Andrew, "I was the one bullied, idiot." Ankara watches the familiar chaos with a calm expression, thinking to himself, "The banquet will continue all night, so you won't regret missing anything." His gaze sweeps over his squad as they celebrate rotally, drinking and roughhousing with each other. "Enjoy yourselves, Andrew and Mac." The festivities continue long into the night under the bright light of a full moon, with the camp alive with firelight and laughter. The next morning at dawn, Andrew and Mac boarded the carriage to the capital. Inside, they both look utterly exhausted, having clearly had no sleep. They looked awful after being harassed by the squaw all night. Ankared watches them go, his thoughts lingering on their departure. But next time we meet, they'll be noble heads of house, he muses. So seeing them like this one last time wasn't so bad. Later that morning, he is already out on the training grounds, his sword a blur as he practices his forms. Even after a banquet, I don't skip morning training, he thinks. His movements are precise and powerful. It's a promise to myself and something necessary if I want to become a knight. As he continues his drills, a voice calls out to him. As expected, you're already up, Lieutenant Ankared. Startled, Ankared turns to see Battalion Commander Marcus approaching him. His eyes then drift to the figure standing just behind the commander. He recognizes the familiar face. A hooded figure stands silently behind the commander. On the ground nearby lies a knight in full dark blue plate armor. Commander Marcus looks at Ankared and continues, and I said I had a personal gift for you. As he speaks, the knight in full armor stirs and gets to its feet, its helmet completely obscuring its face. Marcus turns his head towards the knight and says simply, I'm asking you. Instantly, the knight's red cape whips through the air as it lunges forward with incredible speed, its armored fist cocked back to strike. An unexpected assault. The armored knight exploded forward, a blur of motion surrounded by a crackling red aura that tore through the air. In an instant, the knight was upon Ankared, leaping into the air and bringing a gauntleted fist down with immense force. With a loud clang, Ankared intercepted the attack, his sword held firm against the crushing blow. Sparks erupted from the impact as he held his ground. Watching from the sidelines, Frog's eye widened slightly in surprise. As Ankared strained against the overwhelming pressure, the flat of his blade pressed against his forehead, he thought to himself in disbelief, stop this. The armored knight leaned in, its voice muffled by the helm. Want me to keep going? Suddenly, a blinding crimson aura erupted from the knight, unleashing a furious storm of attacks that shot toward Ankared from all angles. Ankared's eye widened, trying to process the overwhelming assault. He was immediately battered by the relentless strikes, each one landing like a sharp cut. As red slash marks appeared all over his body, indicating the rapid impacts, he thought to himself, a countless number of blades surge in. The sensation of the assault is overwhelming, as if he's being struck by real blades. My thigh is pierced, he registered as a phantom blow landed on his leg. The attacks were a relentless flurry, and another series of strikes battered his upper body. My arm is cut off. He felt a sharp line of force slice across his neck. My throat is slit. Caught in the crimson maelstrom, he understood the intent behind every single blow. His inner voice realized all of these blades were saying, stand down. The message was a clear ultimatum. Retreat here, and we'll spare you. Would I? Ankared's hair was blown back by the sheer force of the assault, but his resolve didn't waver. A blue light sparked in his eyes as he made his choice. Then I'll die, he thought defiantly. He pushed back against the onslaught, his body surrounded by a black and red aura as he resisted the crushing force. His inner voice declared his newfound conviction. I will no longer back down from my dream. Even if I die hundreds, thousands of times, he vowed, taking a single determined step forward into the storm of attacks. Even if it's by a single step, his determination solidified into an unbreakable vow. I will press on. If I can't walk, even if I have to crawl, he thought, his teeth gritted and his eyes glowing with a fierce blue light. A dark blue aura swirled around him as he fought against the pressure. His mind screamed the final command, forward. The armored knight was visibly taken aback by Ankared's sudden surge of resistance. Its eye whitened in surprise as Ankared's own aura, a brilliant and powerful blue, exploded outward, shattering the crimson storm of phantom blades. He had broken through the assault. The clashing energies created a violent shock wave. Just as the confrontation reached its peak, Frog raised a hand and called out, enough. The pressure vanished instantly. Frog, the armored knight, and Ankared stood in the now quiet training field. The knight turned its helmeted head toward Ankared, its voice laced with surprise. You're the first like you have met. The knight seemed genuinely intrigued, asking, you can endure this without knowing how to handle it. The armored knight began to remove their helmet, stating, if you'd hung on a bit longer, you would have really died. Ankared lay on the ground, panting heavily from the exertion. He looked up, sweat beading on his face, and asked weakly, boo. The helmet came off, revealing a young woman with reddish ink hair and determined green eyes. Asia, she introduced herself. It was Asia, a squire of the Red Cloak Order. Ankared remained on the ground, looking up in stunned silence as she stood over him, the encounter having left him completely spent. In a blink of an eye, Jackson arrived, bowing his head in concern for his captain, Ankard. Lying on his back, utterly drained, Ankard thought with a sense of disbelief. So, being a squire is all it takes. The entire mad squad arrive, finding their captain in such a horrible state. They were all filled with a rage ready to fight whoever they were facing. But Ankard didn't care. Rum furiously looked at the Squire Asia with a dead serious expression and commented that greeting was a bit formal. Huh. Looking at the scene unfolding, Asia turned to the frog lady as she looked at the people guarding the unconscious Ankard. They were mysterious and overwhelmingly powerful individuals. She asked, "Who are those?"